What is going on, chat man? Today we're reacting to the Coward Ways, a complete history of decisions ruined the NBA. And this was highly recommended. So, why not get straight into it? But, if you're new to my channel, we've been reacting to old NBA content. And if you like this type of content, you should subscribe. But, I appreciate you guys for recommending me amazing videos. And, let's get straight into the video. Yes, sir.
There have been countless
Okay.
dynastic teams which have reigned supreme throughout the course of NBA history, dating back to the earliest beginnings of the NBA in the 1950s and working through virtually every decade all the way up to modern history. During that time, teams have been built through the draft and by cultivating their talent or by adding pieces in free agency. However team building occurred in the past, that all came to an abrupt and declarative end on July 8th, 2010, when after
Oh my God. I'm one of the biggest LeBron fans, and it's kind of hard defending this decision when he went to another team, but he did have a bad team though. But let's see what he's gonna say.
weeks of speculation, LeBron James sat down in a Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich, Connecticut for a
Wow.
75-minute special.
What?
Yes, you heard that correctly.
What?
The epic Cringe Fest, hosted by Jim Gray, lasted an impossible to believe 75 minutes. And nearly 30 minutes into that show, at 9:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, LeBron James lit a match that would burn the NBA to the ground.
Listen, I'm from Ohio, so LeBron leaving their city was insane, but I wasn't really older at this time frame and watching the NBA. Can you guys please explain to me how you guys felt during this time when LeBron went to a different team? Because he probably was the best player in the NBA during this time.
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach.
For virtually the entire decade that would follow, a decade marked by player empowerment, mass player movement, collusion, and super team building that quite frankly destroyed the competitive balance of the entire sport. And it is important to note that a great team does not necessarily constitute a super team. We have seen
Facts.
countless great teams throughout NBA history,
Facts.
the earliest example of which produced the greatest dynasty ever, the 1960s
Boston Celtics, the greatest dynasty ever over the Lakers? I don't know.
Celtics, who
You guys let me know down below.
captured 11 of 13 NBA championships behind a plethora of Hall of Fame players such as Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Tom Heinsohn, Sam Jones, and Casey Jones. Yes,
Okay.
make no mistake, the Celtics of this era were stacked, but every single one of these players were drafted by the Boston Celtics.
Wow.
This team was built and grown
All of them didn't go to the team? Okay.
organically. The following decade would also produce a team that was super in appearance and is generally regarded as one of the greatest teams ever assembled. The 1972 LA Lakers, who won an
What?
NBA record 69 games at the time, a record
Wow.
which stood for over 20 years until the 95-96 Bulls won 72. This team
course.
paired elite Hall of Fame players such as Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Will Chamberlain. But as with the Celtics team that preceded this one in the previous decade, this team was mostly drafted. Elgin Baylor and Jerry West were both drafted by the Lakers and played their entire careers there. And yes, they did add Wilt, but Chamberlain was 32 years old when he joined the Lakers and in the twilight
32 is literally prime years. What you mean?
of his career, as he averaged just 17 points per game
wow.
in his 5 seasons with LA, compared with the first decade of his career in the league when he averaged 36 a
What?
night. He joined a Lakers team that had famously failed time and time again to get it done, losing 8 finals appearances. The team that
8?
finally got
8?
over the hump in 1972 was a collection of older players late in their careers, a very far cry from the collusion-generated pairings of elite players in their primes we would see years later. The 80s would yield two dynastic and loaded teams in the Boston Celtics and LA Lakers. The heart of the Celtics team was its three-headed frontcourt monster, consisting of Hall of Famers Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. Bird and McHale were both drafted by Boston, and they played their entire careers with the Celtics. While Parrish did come to Boston in 1980 via free agency after 4 years with Golden State, he was joining Larry Bird, who was just in his second season at the time, and Kevin McHale, who was a rookie. This team was great, this team was dynastic, but it was not super. Their primary foe in this era was the juggernaut Lakers, with an embarrassment of riches, boasting arguably two top 5 players of all time in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. And Kareem was not drafted by the Lakers. Kareem was drafted by small market Milwaukee, was arguably the best player in the NBA at the time, and had won multiple
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar single-handedly looks like he could just win the game all by himself. The other team, like his teammates, don't even have to score. It could just be him. That's basically what it looks like.
league MVPs with the team that had drafted him when he decided to jump ship to LA in his late 20s. Does this sound familiar? But Kareem didn't join up with Magic Johnson when Magic was in his prime. Magic wasn't making perennial All-NBA first teams when Kareem decided to go around his organization's back and circumvent rules to collude and recruit other elite All-Stars.
I don't think LeBron was the first one to do that, though, was he? As a LeBron fan, you want to neglect it. You don't want to hear it, but let's see. Let's just see.
To join up there. No, Kareem joined a Lakers team in 1975 that was just 30-52 the year before. And in that 1975-76 season, Kareem won the league MVP in his first year with the Lakers, while Magic Johnson was still in high school. Kareem would win the league MVP again the following season, while lifting the Lakers to the #1 seed in the Western Conference. Magic, meanwhile, still in high school. Then in 1979, 4 years after Kareem joined the Lakers, LA would draft Magic Johnson. Then in 1982-83, they drafted the third piece of their Hall of Fame triumvirate in James Worthy, who would also play his entire career with the Lakers. A far cry from the cowardly, ass-shaking, and
I will say that, the NBA's gotten to a time period where everyone just leaves their team. Regardless, if you have a bad record, they're out of there. Next season, they're out. It's just so normal now. It's really sad, too. No loyalty. I haven't seen a player have loyalty other than Stephen Curry, actually.
team building we would see decades later. Into the 90s, and Michael Jordan would emerge as the greatest force of nature in the modern era, producing 6 consecutive championships throughout the decade in years that he started and played a full season. But this team was a far cry from a super team. The first 3 titles in 91 to 93 had only 2 All-Stars on the team in Jordan and Pippen, both drafted by the Bulls. And after a year and a half in baseball retirement, Jordan would come back to the NBA and win 3 more titles. This team would add Dennis Rodman, who, yes, would go on to eventually make the Hall of Fame, leading some people to very incorrectly designate this team a super team. For starters, Jordan and Pippen were, again, both drafted by the Bulls. But most importantly, Dennis Rodman was 34 years old when he joined Chicago. Dennis Rodman never sniffed an All-Star team while he was playing with Chicago. Dennis Rodman averaged 5.
He never went to the All-Star team. Draymond Green been going to the All-Star team, and he averaged around this type of points. He had worse defense than Dennis Rodman.
5 points per game in his 3-year run with Chicago. Despite how desperately a certain sect of delusional fans want to paint this into some super pairing, they would be gravely mistaken. And the 2000s would see the rise of 2 dynastic teams, or should I say dynastic players, as Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan would combine to win 10 championships, 5
Wow.
each during a 15-year span from 1999 to 2014, and each would do it while wearing one jersey for their entire careers. But while with the same franchise, both Bryant and Duncan would win titles with a vastly different assortment of cast and crew. Tim Duncan would do it playing alongside and winning titles with some combination of 4 different expected Hall of Famers throughout his 19-year career that included David Robinson, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard, all of which, every single one, were drafted by the Spurs, as was Duncan himself. Kobe Bryant, meanwhile, would
That's very impressive, though. Tim Duncan doing that, props to him. All respect. If you guys want me to react to Tim Duncan, because I don't know too much about his game, let me know down below.
win 5 titles in his career, playing with only one other Hall of Famer for 2 different stints as a Laker to capture all 5 of his rings. First and most famously was Shaquille O'Neal. The two would dominate the NBA like few teams ever have, becoming just the 3rd team to ever win 3 consecutive titles, and doing it with just those 2 All-Stars. And after years of playing with some of the worst collection of talent in the sport, the Lakers would acquire Pau Gasol, who was in his 7th year at the time with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Wow.
In those 7 seasons, Gasol had made 1 All-Star appearance, 0 All-NBA teams, and won 0 playoff games to that point
Wow.
in his career. As soon as the acquisition was made, Kobe would go to 3 more consecutive finals and win back-to-back championships with Gasol, the lone All-Star and only Hall of Famer other than Bryant on those rosters. But something else important would happen in the summer before the season when the Lakers acquired Pau Gasol in 2007. The Boston Celtics would trade for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen to pair
Now, this was a super team. Like, come on. This team, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. That's a super team.
them alongside existing All-Star Paul Pierce to create the Boston Big Three, in a move that many feel kick-started the NBA Super Team era. But taking a closer look at the context will reveal
Yes.
a different story altogether, as all 3 of these players were already in their 30s at the time they teamed up, and they had all played a minimum of 10 seasons in the NBA. In the 2 seasons preceding the Big Three team up in Boston, not a single one of these players made All-NBA first or second team, and not
Wow.
a single one of these 3 players finished anywhere near the top 5 in league end MVP voting.
Wow.
None of these 3 were considered to be elite players at this stage of their careers. And while this team up
I feel like that's hating. You're telling me Kevin Garnett was not expected to be a really good player on the Boston Celtics, or he played extremely well on the Celtics? I feel like that's a lie.
would generate 1 title, they would fall the next 2 seasons in the playoffs, while that guy in LA with the 1 fringe All-Star would capture back-to-back championships. And as Kobe Bryant was ruling the NBA, the analytics-obsessed losers, the media, was giving LeBron James back-to-back league MVPs, while his Cavaliers, with the best record in the NBA in back-to-back seasons, were flaming out in the playoffs.
They had the best record because LeBron. That team is horrible without him. We all know that.
After failing to win in his first 7 years with the Cavaliers, and in a fit of sheer desperation based on the realization he could never win the way mostly every other all-time great had, LeBron panicked. He reached out to his buddy in Miami, and the 2 of them, behind their organization's backs, colluded along with then 5-time consecutive All-Star Chris Bosh to join forces in Miami. LeBron would hit that podium in the Boys and Girls Club in Connecticut on July 8th. And literally 1 day later, these 3 cowards would rise up out of the ground together during a pyrotechnic.
I do agree. Like, that was really L move by LeBron going to the Miami Heat. I feel like if he won strictly on Cleveland in the beginning, it would have been crazy. But he did win later on, which was amazing. I'll give him that 3-1. Come on.
Technics concert to officially kickstart the era of the super team. The three of these players were in the absolute hearts of their primes when contrasted with the Boston Big Three, as they were all in their mid to late 20s and all entering their 8th seasons. Laughable, pathetic, and humiliating for their legacies, but historical NBA precedent be damned. LeBron needed to steal some cheap rings. In the 2 seasons prior to this unholy alliance, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were both first-team All-NBA, and both of them finished top 5 in MVP voting in those 2 previous years. Wade, of course, was just a few years removed from winning a championship and Finals MVP. These were the 2 best players in the conference and 2 of the 3 best players in the NBA in their primes, deciding to come together from different teams. This had never happened before, but that wasn't enough. Chris Bosh, who had career averages at the time of 20 points and 10 rebounds per game, who had made 5 straight All-Star teams and an All-NBA second team in 2007, also came along for the ride. Despite this team hilarious.
I know the NBA was absolutely furious during this time frame when LeBron was on Miami. Let me know your thoughts down below.
Somehow failing to win the championship in 2 of their 4 years together, the Heat were, unsurprisingly, able to win the title twice. But once that team was showing signs of decline, rather than stick it out with his second team, LeBron decided to jump ship back to his first team. But it wasn't to fulfill some pledge of responsibility to his hometown team that drafted him and who he stabbed in the back 4 years earlier. No, it was to team up with #1 overall pick from 2011, Kyrie Irving, who in his
He went back for his home team. I feel like he's a little bit of a LeBron hater. You guys let me know down below.
first 3 seasons in the NBA was averaging 21 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds per game while making 2 All-Star teams. The Cavs would then trade the #1 overall pick from that year, Andrew Wiggins, for a player in Kevin Love who was undoubtedly a top 10 player in the NBA at that time. At just 25 years of age, Kevin Love, who was in his 6th season, had made an All-Star team 3 times and had just become the first player ever to that point in post-merger modern NBA history to average 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists in a season. The year prior to joining forces on LeBron's second super team, Love was also top 3 in many advanced metrics, such as PER, value over replacement, and he finished
I didn't know Kevin Love was that guy in Minnesota.
second in box plus minus behind only league MVP Kevin Durant. Love was named second team All-NBA in 2 of his last 3 years with Minnesota before making the super team jump. This team was so impossibly loaded that when healthy and playing together, they beat a 73-9 Golden State Warriors team that had the best regular season record in NBA history.
It didn't even look like they were going to win that too. That was an insane series. Probably one of the best. Let me know your thoughts though.
But not to worry, the Warriors, seeing this super team, felt emboldened to build their own. And Kevin Durant, who like LeBron James years earlier, represented a...
They didn't even build their own. Kevin Durant went out of nowhere on July 4th. I remember July 4th of 2016 because I was an NBA fan. He went to the Warriors, and when he went to the Warriors, they just beat him 3-1 in the playoff series in a Western Conference Finals. So that's ridiculous by him. I feel like that one was way worse.
Very talented individual who was unable to win anything on his own. And if LeBron could do it, why not Durant? On July 7th, 2016, 5 years and 364 days after that fateful night in Greenwich, Connecticut, Kevin Durant officially signed with the Golden State Warriors. And the era of the super team was popping at this point. You get a super team. You get a super team. In all, the Cavaliers and Warriors would meet in 4 consecutive NBA Finals during the decade from the decision in 2010 to 2020. While they weren't all super teams, we would see an unprecedented amount of player movement and team-ups, from the collusion of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to make their way to the Clippers, to James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Durant's pairing in Brooklyn, and LeBron colluding with his clutch sports brother Anthony Davis to force his way to the Lakers. The decade of the 2010s was the most sickening and non-competitive decade in the sport's history. Yet revisionists and teenagers with no understanding or comprehension of basketball history will pontificate about the
Sheesh.
level of competition in this
Wow.
era, which is as hilarious as it is ignorant. It is still.
Chat, we gotta talk about this for sure. You know, thinking about the super teams and everything, I don't know if LeBron was the first person to do it, but it did get way more hype when LeBron did it. As a LeBron fan, I gotta be honest. I gotta be completely honest. That was a poor decision by LeBron. You know, it did change the trajectory of the NBA for a couple of years. The Warriors were unstoppable for a couple of years, which was very boring to watch sometimes, even though I'm a Stephen Curry fan. But, you know, let me know your thoughts down below, and I appreciate you guys for recommending me this video, and feel free to recommend me some more stuff to react to. But that being said, this is the end of the video, and I'll catch y'all next time. Yes, sir.